Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the news briefing for this Wednesday. A recent report that was done by the County of Monterey and some of its partner agencies has generated some pretty significant insights into the county's workforce and its employment trends, including drilling down into getting snapshots of employment information by city, even by supervisorial district. This is really great information, and we are going to find out what this report has to tell us and why it is important. And we're very pleased to have our County Economic Development Manager, Richard Vaughn, here to talk about this, as well as Dr. Christopher Thornberg with Beacon Economics. Richard, I'm wondering if you would start us off.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Maya. Richard Vaughn, Economic Development Manager for Monterey County. And as Maya alluded to, we have an exciting segment for you. It'll provide an overview of the findings from our recent economic trends report for Monterey County. And as she mentioned, this is developed in partnership with Monterey County Business Council and Beacon Economics. This report examines trends using our confidential EDD data for the 12 municipalities in our county, 5 districts, and the unincorporated regions of Monterey County. The full report and the summary will be able to be accessed using a QR code at the end of the presentation. And with that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Chris Thornberg. Dr. Thornberg founded Beacon Economics in 2006, and the firm quickly became known for correct calls from the subprime real estate bubble and global recession to our V-shaped recovery during the pandemic to recent surge in inflation. And under his leadership, Beacon Economics become a highly respected research organization producing trusted analysis for private industry, public agencies, and nonprofits. And as a thought leader and dynamic speaker, Dr. Thornberg encourages audience to ask the right questions before accepting pervasive social and political narratives. And with that, I'd like to kick it over to Dr. Thornberg to touch on some of the things that his team was able to pull together for us in this elaborate report.
Yeah, that elaborate report is exactly right. And I appreciate there's a few people on the call here today. One thing I want to say is I'm not going to tell you what this report says in 10 minutes. I was asked to talk for 10 minutes. This is a 94-page report. But that's kind of the point, right? Let me jump in. I have a few slides just to give you kind of an overview of where we're coming from, what's the purpose of this report, where this is going. Hang on, I just got to be able to get my slides up. Okay, they are up. Now I need to be able to share my screen. There we go, share. Beautiful. Okay. Okay. There we go. Okay, as noted. Okay, so let's back up real quick and talk about where we're going here. So we're super excited when Richard and Paul reached out to us and asked us about, hey, look, we want to better understand what's happening in Monterey County, where things are going, and we need to be able to really think holistically about this entire county. And so the best way to do that, and something that we have a lot of expertise in, is using what's known as the confidential employment data. So let me stop just for a second and introduce what that is, because I think it's kind of important. Now, when we think about economies from an overall standpoint, we typically get our data in sort of an MSA level stuff. I'm going to show you a bit of data in here about Monterey. So most of this is in the report. Monterey is known as the Salinas MSA because MSAs are named after the largest city. Salinas is the largest place in the county. Hence, that's what the name it's granted. With that said, that data at the very top level gives you a nice overview, but it doesn't allow you to see different parts of a county. And while that may work for counties that are relatively well, shall we say, consistent across the county in terms of what's going on and who's there and that kind of stuff, that may be okay. But in the context of a place like Monterey, which is really encapsulates a little bit of everything that California has to offer, well, then we start to realize that county down vision may not be sufficient to come up with real plans. So how does one get better data at a sub-regional level? Well, one of the best ways of doing that is to work with the EDD and the county development to access what's known as the confidential employment data. Not to be too complicated, but basically this data is the data that directly comes out of unemployment insurance records that every establishment has to file with EDD on a quarterly basis in order to basically both come up with the fees for their unemployment insurance, but then also have that unemployment insurance there for their employees should they need it in terms of some sort of economic cycle. With the right forms being pulled, with the right cooperation, you can pull this data, and it will allow you to provide what I would call a city by city or even a street by street view of what's happening in the local economy. Now, where this all boils down to, of course, has a lot to do with who we are and what we do as an organization. Whenever we do conversations, I always talk to folks that there's two things out there that you have to appreciate. The first thing is what people think is happening. And then the second thing is what's actually happening. Now, back in the day when I was getting my grad degree, I was taught these were the same things. And what I've realized over time is they are not the same things. And what's important for a forecaster is both. It's not just our stories or our economic realities, but it's a combination of the two, because it's the narratives that drive choices. And of course, it's the economics that determines the outcome of those particular choices. So to be a forecaster, you got to see both of these. But guess what? This is just as important for policymakers, because what policymakers need to do is they need to understand the reality versus the narrative. And then, of course, they have to use that information, the actual information, to make the right policy choices. And again, a lot of what we're doing here at the first step is to better define what's going on within, of course, Monterey County overall. Now, look, jobs are up. Some important sectors are doing fairly well. We did the presentation not too long ago. We knew all this. And wages are up, and population with the subprime credit score is down. This is a region that's doing well. Incomes are up, particularly for people with less than a high school degree. Lots of good data here as we can go in. With all that being said, we also have to appreciate the complexities of the Monterey County all by itself, right? This is a region that, we say that California is an economy that basically captures a little bit of everything in the world, from high tech to some of the most pristine nature out there. We have big corporations to big ag. Everything's here in the state of California. Well, Monterey is a small version of that. This is a region that has a little bit of everything, and the economies here are incredibly different. What you see down in King City and Greenfield and Soledad is a completely different kind of economy than what you're going to be seeing, obviously, in Monterey or Carmel, which is going to be different even than Salinas, which is a relatively dense urban core in this particular economy. So what this data has allowed us to do right off the bat is to start breaking down what's happening a little bit better locally. Some of this will come from other sources of data that may be available, but the most of it, the most important stuff, comes from this confidential employment data. Now, what we were able to do, for example, is take a look what's happening in terms of agricultural employment in different parts of the county, studying this on a supervisor by supervisor district, as the case may be. Or equivalently, on the right-hand side, you could see some breakdown in job growth on a place-by-place basis. Now, what's really interesting here is when you even get into the nuts and bolts of this report, because what you will find is an incredibly detailed overview of what's happening in each part of the county: Carmel by the Sea, Salinas, Seaside, Pacific Grove, and everything else. To give you some sense of these things, for example, overall county employment, this is as of Q3 23. We've seen and gotten some data since then. You can see the overall changes going on. But again, what's happened, for example, in Salinas? Well, Salinas is actually one of the most rapidly growing parts of the county, with a 20% increase in overall jobs. Seaside also been doing very, very well. But then you can see Delray or Carmel by the Oaks, and of course Greenfield, all they've had very flat labor supply growth. What is going on in these different parts of the market? Who's succeeding, who's not? What parts of the county are doing well? Which parts need the helping hand of economic development agencies or the Monterey County Business Council to come in and change policies? A lot of these questions have not been answered. What I want to really impress upon everybody here in this phone call, that what we've done here is a first step to better understanding the internal intricacies of something as incredibly complex as the Monterey County economy, to better understand, better help policymakers and local government lean in and do what, of course, the population needs to help them continue to grow the local economy, increase incomes, and increase the quality of life for everybody within the particular region. Now, with that being said, what I'd like to do here is actually bring up a little bit of the presentation to kind of guide you through some of the top level stuff. I do have that here. Let me go ahead and get that. Is it okay to introduce this now, Richard and Paul, or do you want to wait? Do you guys want to bring it up and do that yourself? How do you want to operate that?
I'm good with you bringing it up now. Paul, Richard, you okay? They say yes.
Okay, excellent. Let me go ahead and pull this up. So, and I apologize. I somehow or other, like a dummy, managed to close the link, but that's okay. I think we are in good shape now. Let me go ahead and get this up as the case may be. All right, all sorts of complexities in a Zoom type world. Right, here we go. Okay, so this is the overall structural report, as you could see. This is just a trends report, top line sort of thing. And what you can see is that what we've done here is we've taken this data, and it's really just a conversation about business. But the beautiful part is we get a really good look at what kind of businesses they are. We can talk about small business versus larger businesses, as the case may be. And of course, as already noted, we can break this down on a region by region standpoint, which is what this report ultimately focuses on. When you flip through this, you'll find, for example, some top line stuff going through some of the big picture sort of things. And this is standard stuff that you will find in the standard statistical reports for the county. But where this really gets interesting is when we start to dive into a little bit of the subsectors. So we break out Carmel by the Sea, for example, and we discuss what's happening with employments in that part of the world, annual wages happening in this part of the world. And then, of course, when we start talking about the different kinds of employment sectors, what's driving the show, what's doing well, and what's falling behind. Now, again, when you go through this, you can see just how complex some of this data is. And candidly, it's such a mountain of good data that it's the kind of thing that will literally take years to mine for fullest extent, as the case may be. But again, when you think through the kind of the land use, distribution of size of businesses, is it small businesses are prospering or are they falling behind? What kind of work may we need on the small business front? That's a big part, I know, of what MCBC does, is working with those kind of small businesses. Again, as you go through this, you will find deeper and deeper information. I can't emphasize enough. What does this all mean? There's there's a lot of things that pop out of this. The whole point though is to give the powers that be, Richard and Paul, the ability to see locally what's going on and craft development strategies that best fit those local economies and the local economies that are going on there at this particular point in time. This is an opening salvo into this. When you think about the complexities of tourism and retiree-driven economy versus what I would call tech and research types economies, that's in Monterey versus Carmel, versus a pure ag economy as in the south part of the economy, each one of these are totally different. Each one of these have different kinds of trends and stresses and pressures, and each one needs different kinds of economic policy to help those areas better prosper. And I keep repeating myself, but you get the point. That this is the first step in terms of fully understanding all these different situations. Now, after the cities, we also go ahead and break it down a bit by supervisor district. Yet again, each supervisor has the ability to see what's happening in their corner of the county as we go through things. As opposed to flipping through this and trying to highlight different parts of this, I think the key here is to get this report out to everybody and then understand this is a first step. And as we find various questions worth answering, well, that'll be the next step in terms of this particular report. So with that being said, let me go ahead. I think I've used up most of the 10 minutes I wanted to take. I appreciate this is still a very high level sort of introduction. But with that, let me go ahead and figure out how to, boy, what am I doing here? Sorry, I'm trying to end my screen sharing and I'm having a tough time doing that. Give me one second here. There we go. I think I managed. Okay.
I got.
So with that, again, very high level overview. Hopefully everybody got a little bit out of where this data is coming from, where we're going with it, first steps, all that kind of stuff. And with that being said, maybe some questions at this point in time. I don't know if Richard or Paul, if you wanted to weigh in a little bit more on how you're using this data.
Richard or Paul, this would be a great time to do that. I do have some questions, but I want to offer you first.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be great to go ahead and jump to questions. Currently, we have the report up on our website, but utilizing it for all of our data needs and helping to influence our future update to our 5-year sets. So this has been very influential data and very informative for us at the county to be able to get access to this data. And as Dr. Thornberg said, it's the first time we've been able to do this. So it's been a great wealth of knowledge and wealth of new data that we've been able to access.
Right. And I'll just jump in to share that we did an event at the Monterey Conference Center with Beacon Economics, and Dr. Thornberg came here. We had about 200 people show up to hear the 90-minute version, well, probably 60-minute version of this report. If anybody has any questions on the report, I saw Kristen put the link there. You can also contact me at the Monterey County Business Council, and we'll be happy to talk to you about it further. That's all I have to say, Maya. If anybody has any questions for Dr. Thornberg or Richard or myself.
And the information was just, if your eyes weren't open before, it was pretty dramatic to see where first of all, I love that we talked about various economies. All these cities are economies. They're their own drivers. They have their own businesses. They have their own economy, which is very important to the big picture. But you showed these key drivers, which is the unincorporated area and the city of Salinas, but other cities, their economy is very important to them. How would they use this information to drive what they may need to do to improve what they've got going on in their hometowns?
Absolutely. Okay, that's a great question. And again, what do cities get out of this? Well, look, cities have to make decisions about, for example, things like zoning. How are you going to use the limited space you have available to you? Well, conversations about zoning have to naturally be wrapped around what sectors of the economy are currently booming and which ones may be fading away. The ability to pivot and have land use policies that meet your current economic needs is a function of understanding what's currently driving your economy forward, as the case may be. And this data would allow you to do that kind of thing. Another thing is we all appreciate how important small business is to local economies. Small business not only gives, if you will, a place for a lot of folks who may not fit in the traditional labor market, an opportunity to get ahead in life and make their family better off. But yet again, we have almost no ability to see how well is small business doing. Is small business succeeding or not? Well, look, there's limited resources. I know, Paul, you're doing some small business stuff there for the county at this particular point in time. I know you have some big things there. But yet again, limited resources. How do we best leverage those resources? Well, by appreciating how small business is doing, which small business is, kind of looking at turnover rates, you can see where the pressure points are and think more holistically about how you can help these businesses get off the ground. Again, that can be a big lift for a local economy. Even when it comes to what I would call conversations about, well, listen, this is one of the big things we found in the data, that one of the big issues in Monterey County has been, and I know this is going to be a shock to everybody, a lack of housing, right? But let's even have the conversation about what housing means to the local economy. Can we estimate, say, how a lack of housing is having an impact on the local economy in different sorts of ways? We actually can. Not only can we, for example, use this kind of data to consider how, for example, growth in population is both lifting various types of local sectors. We can also look how a lack of labor force may be constraining certain local sectors. That too, by being able to do those kind of causal events, it can help us better hone some of the economic uses, even getting down to the idea of leaning more in on mixed use development and how that can help local economies. This is one of those abilities to say, look at how businesses and mixed use establishments are doing better than those not in mixed use. One can make case studies in order to better help things happen. Look, I think I started this out by saying that to have the right policy, you got to have the right narrative. And what's the most important thing that comes out of this data right now is establishing what the true local economic dynamics are. In a world where a lot of this is nothing but, talking to a few people on the street and a wing and a prayer, local cities very often have almost no idea what's happening at the ground level. So this gives you an opportunity of actually seeing what's happening, and therein allows you to make just much better decisions.
And then the other question that I had was, so say we've got this for small business, we've got this for policymakers.
Yeah.
It's a 90-page report, but I think there's something here for people who are looking for work. If you're looking for work and you may want to know, where do I need to look? Where are the jobs? Where should I live? Is this something that they can plumb and find out if they've got to make some choices? What can they get out of this?
No, absolutely. Look, well, there's a couple things here to keep in mind. The idea of helping people better plug into the local economy is often a function of skill training. And skill training means you need to understand what kind of jobs are out there, what kind of skills they need to help people better plug in. So maybe not the individual worker, but certainly the various groups that help with workers get retrained and find new positions. Think of a workforce investment board, for example, or some sort of labor training agency. For them, this is enormously powerful data because you can see where the new jobs are, what kind of industries they're in, and better help the folks who are looking for that job get trained to take on these positions. There's no doubt about it. We can even consider differences in wages and consider which kind of businesses have better growth and wage trends. And that too could give you some idea of where there are opportunities to plug into. So even there's a lot of opportunity. One thing, though, we got to keep in mind is that some of this data is confidential. It's got to be. We have to restrict how we present the data to the public to meet very specific EDD rules to preserve the confidentiality of the people who give this data to the EDD on a daily basis. A lot of businesses consider their payrolls and their employment a trade secret, rightly so. With that said, well, there's conversations we can have with Richard inside his team and get very close to nitty-gritty to help him really better understand on almost a building-by-building basis what's going on out there. And that, again, becomes both an exciting, both external as well as internal source of data for the county to utilize.
Thank you, all three of you, for talking about this, because it's really important to demystify these reports. Because sometimes when you see economic trend report, you click and you move on, to something else because it's too scary. But you've really demystified it, and the report is not difficult to peruse. The loads of charts that actually tell you they're actually readable to the average person. So for that, we really encourage everyone. We'll post a link to the report and share it. And we hope everyone takes a dive, peruse it, find out your city's economy, where you live, take a look and see what the employment trends are. And we really appreciate the three of you coming here to talk about it today.
A pleasure to be here. And
thank you all. If I could just make one quick comment.
Please do.
I put in the chat box a link. If you want to watch the complete recording of Dr. Thornberg's presentation, there's a link in the chat box. You can watch the whole thing. Thank you, Dr. Thornberg. Final word.
I was actually well, thank you for that shout out. I was going to give a shout out to you, Paul, and just say that, well, look, I view this as a first step. I think that what we've done here is we've shown the power of this data in its overall form. The problem here in this first report is it's too much data. Now what we have to do is start working with the county, with the supervisors, with Richard, with the various cities, and to start honing our questions down to places where there are specific answers that need to be come up with. And what I'm really excited more than anything else is go look. It's a fascinating set of data. It's a view of Monterey you've never seen before. With all that said, it's the next set of questions that are the most important. So if you find interesting stuff in here, reach out to Paul, reach out to Richard, please reach out to me, because all of this is going to lead us to using this data, right? This is presenting the data. Now we have the exciting step of using it, and that's a whole other generation of work, if you will.
Well, it's Christmas. This is data that's just going to keep on giving, right? Exactly. It's a gift that keeps on giving.
Exactly. And by the way, it gets updated quarterly. So we're going to continue to update it as well. Hey, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. Again, thank you, the three of you. We're gonna kind of stay on an economic trend and a holiday trend. So I had to invoke Christmas because we have Commander Rosas with us today. He is going to talk to us about holiday safe shopping and giving at this time of year. Know where you're shopping, kind of be careful at the shopping centers, as well as a fantastic Deputy Deer toy drive that the Sheriff's Department is putting on. Andy, thanks for being here.
No, thanks for having us, Maya. And, a lot of the things that I'm going to say are things that you hear every year, but it is a good feeling to remind people of some of these things because you do get caught up in the holiday and the craziness of the holiday. So, we'll start off by talking about shopping. I think it's very important for everybody to understand that when you're out shopping, don't drop your guard. Be vigilant of what is going on around you, what is going on inside the stores, in the parking lots as well. You go into a store and you just, again, get lost in that moment for what you're looking for, in addition to just the large crowds and other activities going on, but you still have to protect yourself. So make sure you're just watching out. If something that is not normal is going on around you, try to distance yourself from that and get to a safe place. So when we're talking about shopping, we should also encourage people to shop in groups. Go with family members, go with friends. Don't do it alone, especially if you're going to be carrying or making a lot of purchases. It's just better to be in groups to discourage those bad people that are out there from wanting to make you their target. Let's focus on a different thing that actually happens quite a bit, but I truly don't think you hear a lot about it, and that is shopping with your children. I don't think we put a lot of thought into the fact that every year children get lost in these large shopping malls and shopping centers and wherever you happen to be doing what you're doing. It could be an amusement park. It could be just anywhere there's a large crowd. And we should be prepared to deal with that. Parents, you responsible adults, guardians, if you have small children, have conversations with them on what they should do if they become separated from you. One of the big trends, you probably see this on all the different social media platforms, is to take a photograph of your child. Use your phone, take pictures of them showing what they're wearing at that particular time that you're out and about, so that if something does happen where you can't find your child, you have the most up-to-date photograph of what they look like and what they were wearing to help facilitate that reunification with your child. Or as I like to call them, lost parents, because it's usually the parents that did something to cause the child to, stray off into a different area. But, do have conversations with your children. Show them how to talk to a responsible adult, how to identify a responsible adult. They can go in a shopping mall into any store and talk to an employee. They can find a security guard. They can find a law enforcement officer. And all of these people will help to reunify that child with their parents or responsible adults. So keep that in mind. I think the bigger thing here, and something that you hear every year, but there's been a little bit of a change in a new trend that's happening. But this is when you go shopping and you make all your purchases and you decide, I don't want to carry this stuff. Let me go back to my car, put it all in my car, and then let me go back into the stores and go shopping again. Unfortunately, we have people that park in lots, and they are watching for these individuals that are doing their shopping, putting their packages in the cars, and then you become a target for a break-in into your car. One of the new trends that is out there, and something that I do personally, is to go back to your car, put your packages in your car, cover everything up as though you're going to go away again, but get in your car and go park somewhere else. Pull out of that parking spot. Those people that are watching you, if they are in fact watching you, are going to see you leaving, and they assume you're gone. You're no longer a target to them. They're going to focus on the easier targets. But go to a different part of the parking lot, maybe the other side of the shopping mall, find another parking spot, make sure your packages are covered and secured, lock your doors, and then go back and finish up your shopping. Just another one of those things that that is out there, and a new way to deal with those packages that you're doing. Of course, always keep a hold of your purses, your backpacks, anything that you have. Don't be flashing your money around. Use credit cards. That way, if something gets lost, you can always cancel a credit card or block it temporarily. But now let's talk about something else, May. I know you wanted to talk about donations. There are a lot of organizations that are out there this year asking for money, just as in every year past. And the question is, how do I know if an organization is legit or if they're trying to scam me. And the reality is it can be very challenging. However, there are some things you can do to protect yourself. Do your research on the organization that's asking for the donation. We have organizations that are very well known throughout the world that do ask for money because it is the giving season, and they will cold call you. They'll call you at home on your cell phone. They'll send you emails. But unfortunately, we also have organizations, or I should say groups, fraud groups that are out there trying to pass themselves off as these organizations. And it's really important to know, if at any time you don't feel comfortable donating to an organization, there is nothing wrong with that. If I get a call from an organization that I know very well, and I don't want to give my information to them over the phone, my response would be, listen, I want to support you, but I don't feel comfortable talking to you or giving information to you over the phone. But I'm going to go to your website because I know that reputable organization has a legit website online. I can just go to any search engine, find it, go to the site, and make a charitable donation there. If you're being provided a link, a lot of times links will lead you to other rogue sites where you're going to become a victim of fraud. It's the same thing. If they're telling you what their organization is, do a search for that organization. Find out if they are a legit organization. Most of these are going to be nonprofits. You can always go to the IRS's website and find out what their nonprofit status is. And there's also other sites like Charity Navigator, the Better Business Bureau. They all have platforms where you can or portals where you can enter a charitable organization's name or information and find out if they're legit. So make sure you protect yourself. Be careful with pressure. If you've got somebody that's calling you and they're like a real bad car salesman and they're really trying to get you to donate money, that's a big red flag that something's not right. Just hang up on the person. If you really want to give to that organization, look it up online, find out if they're legit, and support them that way. And then the other thing is, when making donations, if you do decide to give a donation to an organization over the phone, be careful with the information they're asking you for. If they're asking you for your social security number and your date of birth, that is a major, major red flag. Organizations do not ask for social security numbers. They do not ask for dates of birth. They will not ask you to go out and buy a gift card and provide them the number on the gift card and the PIN. That is not how organizations get charitable donations. They will ask you for credit card numbers. They will ask you for expiration dates and the PIN on your credit card number, but they are not going to ask you for those other three items. Those are key indicators that you are about to become a victim of fraud. So do not give ever your social security number, your date of birth, or information on cards, specifically gift cards where you're giving a number and a PIN. It's just something that you need to do to protect yourself as well. With that said, I'll wrap up by talking about a very special event that the Monterey County Sheriff's Office is doing, and this is our Deputy Deer Toy Drive. For the past several weeks, we have been working on collecting toys throughout Monterey County, and this year we are very, very happy to announce that our toy distribution efforts will be focused on the community of Pajaro. As everyone knows, Pajaro suffered a devastating flood less than a few years ago, about a year and a half ago, where the entire town was underwater because of the levee break on the Pajaro River. That really took away their holiday season last year. And for that reason, this year, the Monterey County Sheriff's Office is going to do a toy distribution on Tuesday, December 17th from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Our Lady of the Assumption Church in Pajaro. Our efforts, again, are focused on that community to try to bring a sense of joy for this holiday season back to them after what they went through with the Pajaro floods. These toys will be distributed on a first-come, first-served basis to people that arrive at that Pajaro community church, or at the Catholic Church in Pajaro, on Tuesday the 17th between 4 and 7. We will have other things going on for the kids. We'll have entertainment and music and lots of different activities for kids to do as well. So we hope people can join us out there that day.
Andy, thanks so much for sharing the tips. And then that great news. That community just could use some special joy this year. And I'm really glad to see the Sheriff's Office coming and bringing some holiday cheer to Pajaro.
That's right. We're looking forward to it. So we hope to see as many people as possible out there.
Thank you very much, Andy, as always.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you. And then last but certainly not least, we have our friend Kevin Drabinski from Caltrans. He is going to talk to us about what is going on at Rocky Creek. Everybody recalls earlier this year a little excitement that went on there, and repair work is continuing, but there's going to be a need for a full closure. And Kevin is going to explain this all to us. Hi there.
Thank you for, again, letting me be in your august company. We're approaching an important construction milestone for us on the permanent repair at Rocky Creek. And that is we're coming up on the installation of 9 prefabricated concrete girders between 45 and 60 feet in length. And in order to install those girders, which will form the foundation for the bridge deck, and will eventually make up the southbound lane, the fully restored southbound lane, we need to place 2 very large cranes at either end of the project site to be able to pick these cranes up and place them into position. That means that no vehicles will be able to travel through the project site. Again, Rocky Creek is 12 miles south of Carmel and immediately north of the Bixby Bridge to give you an idea of the precise location of it. The schedule calls for a 24-hour full and complete closure of Highway 1 at Rocky Creek, which would begin Friday, December 13th at 10 p.m. and the highway would reopen Saturday, December 14th at 10 p.m. We are planning to go ahead with that schedule, but as we've announced previously, that schedule is weather dependent. We are huddling with the National Weather Service later this afternoon and tomorrow morning early as we get closer to that closure date to see if we would anticipate any weather impacts that would bring, say, wind limits beyond the thresholds that we're allowed to have utilizing these large cranes. In any event, the Friday or the shift to our backup date, which would be Saturday at 10 p.m. into Sunday at 10 p.m., an announcement either confirming the Friday-Saturday closure or the announcement of moving it to Saturday-Sunday will be made Thursday afternoon once we get all the data from the weather forecast and see if we can perhaps shoot the gap on some of the winds that are expected in the forecast. In any project meeting that we've had, and we have these at least weekly, the first item on the agenda is safety, and especially on this particular phase, which is fairly complicated, involves a number of other subcontractors. There's an intense look at safety. We have that as our primary criteria for whether it's a go, no go on this work, and we'll continue to keep safety in the forefront moving forward. So in sum, we have a closure scheduled Friday for 24 hours, beginning Friday at 10 p.m. to Saturday 10 p.m. And if there's any change or to confirm that schedule, we'll be making that announcement through press releases, social media, and communicating with our stakeholders tomorrow afternoon.
Kevin, thank you so much for sharing this. I think a lot of us, you guys have been doing so much work there and you were able to get a signal light going, and people just forget how the complexity of that repair that is still going on.
Well, it was quite dramatic when we dropped a section of that southbound lane. The first task was to stabilize that southbound lane. That's where those vertical and horizontal rock dowels, I think, over 120 of those were installed. That secured and stabilized the southbound lane. That allows us with confidence to direct traffic on the northbound side. And now this southbound viaduct construction will in fact be the permanent repair at that site.
Very exciting development. For that, we can give you a night. We can give you 24 hours to get that done. And we really appreciate you coming and talking about it with us today to remind everyone.
As always, a pleasure. Thank you for the invite.
And we have one addition. We'd like to have Karen Smith, our colleague from the health department, just pop on because they have an event coming up this weekend and she'd like to share a little bit. Karen?
No. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Yes, this weekend on Saturday the 14th, we are unveiling, we meaning the big health department, I'm sorry. a mural on the side of our Alisal Integrated Clinic at 331 Sanborn between 11 and noon, or 11 and 1. I'm sorry. Boy, I'm really start all over. There will be food and music and dancing and all sorts of things going on there. It's called The Hug, and it's Jose Ortiz, who has done many of the murals around the area. And we just would love to have more people come and visit. And the hug has meaning for this clinic. It represents support, acceptance, safety, and belonging in our community. So we'd love to see everybody. Our Alisal Integrated Health Clinic is a holistic clinic. So it's mind, body, and that we provide mental health service and physical health services to those who don't have medical insurance. So yeah, please come join us.
And if people did not know about Jose's work, they could look at your background. And that is some of Jose's work that is here at our government center. And there's the slide that shows what they'll be able to see in real life and if they haven't seen the Alisal Center yet, it'll give people a chance to go. Will they be able to go in and take a look around?
I don't know how far you will be able to go in, but I'm sure you'll be able to go in and at least see there is a community room. And this has been a long time. This clinic has been amazing for the community. So yeah, come on in, look and see, and learn more about what we do at the health department.
Thank you. Thank you so much for just kind of letting me drop you in and talk about it, because I think it'll be a really fun event for both the staff and the community to come and enjoy the mural.
Yep. Come and have some, a little bit of food and listen to the music, and there's raffles too.
Okay, thank you. And then that wraps it up for the news briefing this week. Our next briefing will be next week, and we will be focusing our next briefing on the Pajaro Recovery Fund 1-year anniversary and providing a lot of information about that next Wednesday. So we hope you'll join us then. Thanks everyone for joining us on the briefing this week. Bye-bye.